Hey, live chat. How's everybody doing? As usual, testing to go and see whether the mic and the camera are coming through. Feel free to go and throw something up there, whether you can hear me. Oh, I only got a small group of people in tonight. Oh, there we go. We're back up into 8. Started off with 4. I wonder how many people are going to come in, because I didn't end up advertising it around tonight like I usually do. I'm pretty tired. It's been one of those last couple of weeks of just every time I turn around, I got something to do and get done and whatever. So I didn't end up bouncing around and advertising the chat like I usually do. But usually without advertising, we usually end up with 25 to 30 or so. So we'll see what happens. If you're new to the chat, you're more than welcome to go and throw up questions and stuff like that. I'll go down through and read them. In between that, if I have something stupid to talk about or just something to throw out there, I might throw that up on screen and talk. I've got a couple of different projects going on and different things like that. You're more than welcome to throw out questions about a video you've seen. I understand that commenting would be really nice on my YouTube channel, but unfortunately, because John's in a lot of videos and he's interactive, YouTube decided to go and label my channel as a kids channel. So unfortunately, this is the only way I can answer you guys' comments, and you're welcome to go and throw questions up. Craftsman Crusher and Carts and Cameras were in earlier. Good to see you guys kicking around. Cool Doritos. Glad to go and see you here, bud. Old Repair Shop from West Virginia. Oh, by the way, if you guys are checking in from the last video, I forgot. I utterly, totally spaced being sending out stickers. I'll make sure to send out those stickers tomorrow. I ended up having so much going on. John and I went and we helped a friend with moving a double wide trailer. I did a lot of the flagging for the bulldozer at that. Then we had to go get it shored up and everything else on top of that. I finished 3 different lawn tractors to be able to put up for sale. Plus I'm working on the dragster. Plus I'm working on another dragster as kind of a hidden idea. We're going to see how the second one works before that ends up on film for you guys. We're going to see whether I'm wasting my time or whether it's a good idea or not. And we'll go from there. Let's see. Rednecks do it better. Hey, I was wondering, how could I get more power out of my 19.5 Briggs on my racing lawnmower? Q Carburetor. If you Google that, you'll find it's a guy who's dedicated to racing lawnmowers and stuff like that. He does a lot of the billet parts and things like that. He's who I usually go to look up information. Really nice guy. If you send him a message, he's usually pretty personable. But that's who I would check with. I'd see whether he has anything for your particular motor. If he doesn't, he's usually pretty good about sending you on to people. The real reality is I don't get into too much of that modification stuff at this point. Although if I decide to get into the outlaw class when it comes to the lawn tractor drag racing, we'll end up getting into some of that. Parts and Pieces. Hey, man, I'm glad to go and see you here. If you're subscribed to my channel, you should be subscribed to Parts and Pieces. He's a really cool guy. Does a bunch of modifications. He's got a Murray that he calls Mean Queen. That he's doing a bunch of other stuff. He's really changed up the way that he's done that Murray, and it's really nice to see. So take a look at it and go check it out. Let's see, ATRC, what's the best pulley swap for tractors? What I always recommend is I always recommend to do what they call a one-to-one swap first and then progressively change it from there. The real reality is your lawn tractor does like 7 miles per hour with whatever its usual stock configuration is most of the time is your base speed. So if you put like a 5.5 on the motor and you put like a 6 or a 5.5 on the transmission, almost all of them that usually puts them up into the 15 to 18 mile per hour category. And that is pretty much a pretty good baseline to start working from. Unless you've had lawn tractors in the past that do 20 miles per hour plus, the reality check of how much of your steering is going to need to be redone once you hit that one-to-one ratio really kicks in, and then you can decide how much of an extreme case you want to go. Old School Repair Shop, how is the drag racer going? So I've got a bigger motor that I plan to drop in. Well, actually, technically, I got two bigger motors. I got a bigger and a bigger. We're going to see if we can, I know I've got the bigger motor running. We're going to see if we can get the bigger motor running. I actually have what the drag racers refer to as a unicorn motor. It's a Kohler 25 horsepower with it's a Kohler 25 horsepower that's 724 cc, which basically is the best of the best cc size that you can get for their big mod class that they run. The cap is 750 cc, but it's very rare to get something that's actually 750. They actually tend to be 725, and then they bump into 7 whatever. So 725 is the 25 horsepower Kohler twin that comes in large Cub Cadets and a couple of Craftsman GTs and stuff like that. So I do have one. I was saving the motor for another machine, but if we drag race it once or twice before I decide to put it in a machine to sell, that's okay, right? But I've got a lot going on this weekend, so I won't be able to get to it until probably Monday or Tuesday. And after that, we'll see what we can do. Let's see. How are you and your family doing? We're doing great. John's with his bio mom until Friday, and then he'll be back and we'll be doing other stuff. Excited to be able to go and do some stuff towards the end of summer and get out there and have some fun. That's why this Saturday I won't be able to work on the YouTube stuff like I usually do, but we should be able to have a good weekend. Let's see. Whatever happened to the John Deere 140 you had a few years back? Almost every John Deere, I bring it home. I see if I can get it running good enough to be able to go and flip it as fast as possible. If that John Deere 140 is the one that had the Kohler, I ended up finding out that Kohler was just utterly junk. And I ended up selling that machine for $150. I bought it for $100, so I'll call that good on flipping it. Basically, I brought it home and I spun over the motor and could immediately hear the fact the piston was scraping the inside wall. Found out it was notorious for those to eventually seize the piston. And so I posted it up. I was honest in the description on everything. And I had it posted for $200. The guy offered me $150 and I sold it. I then proceeded to use that $150 to buy, I think it was a Craftsman 3000 for $100. I dropped the $50 into it and I sold that machine off for $500. So it flipped into another flip, which paid the bills. ANTC and lawn care. I want to go 30 plus miles per hour. if that's the case, you're going to end up probably needing an 8-inch pulley on your engine pulley, and you're going to need a 4-inch on the rear. That'll push you into 30. But the problem is once you pass about 20, you're going to know you're driving with lawn tractor suspension and steering. And if you do not have that as tight as can be, you're going to put yourself in a ditch. So pay attention and be careful. Let's see. Carts and cameras. How fast would my mud mower go with a stock in the front and a 5-inch in the back? So carts and cameras, the problem with answering your question, which you know is the thing, it really depends on what your stock front is. Everybody seems to think that the stock pulley is the same universal size, and it's not. Like certain Murray GTs, they have almost like a full 4-inch, 4.5-inch size pulley for their stock height, for their stock one. Whereas like a 1236 Craftsman with a Spicer in the rear end, their stock pulley is only about 2.5, 3 inches. It's tiny. Whereas a lot of your hydros usually have a 3.5. So it depends on what it is. But if we're going with the idea that you tend to do Craftsman's the same as I do, it's most likely got a 3.5 stock, which means that you've got a 5 in the rear. If you don't end up with a bunch of belt slippage, my bet would be you'd probably top out at around 11 to 12 miles per hour. The real reality is you need to get that 5.5 to 6-inch front pulley, and then you're going to start gaining some speed. But if you drop down to a 5 in the rear, then my bet would be you probably clear somewhere in the 10 to 11 miles per hour. Yeah, Dylan subscribes to Parts and Pieces. Very good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Parts and Pieces is cool people. Yeah, so as far as the drag racing machine is concerned, I'm running into some issues big time that I've got to go and figure out how to get around. So the chassis that I'm using is an MTD designed chassis, and it's the same as the 1045 Cub Cadets if you have one of those. It's the same as a Yardman GT that has a 20 horsepower Briggs & Stratton twin in it. It's the same as a Toro Bronco if you happen to have one of those. And so the problem is the steering assembly drops down to a fan gear with 2 ends that come off of it, the same as like a Murray. So it's got all of that steering system in the way, along with the steering shaft going down through the center of that entire chassis area. And so what I'm going to try is I'm going to try taking an old school MTD front end with the single shaft steering with the central gear, with the upper lifted central gear. And I'm going to see if I can change all of that over onto the dragster, which means unfortunately I'm going to end up using the older front end, and I'm going to have to see if I can piece together enough parts to make it solid. But as soon as I get that transitioned over, at that point it opens up the entire undercarriage, except for where the transmission forward, neutral, and reverse pedal is. Except for where, sorry, that's a hydro. Except for where the go pedal is and the brake pedal. But the thing is all of that is off to one side, and the whole entire assembly for that's only about maybe 4 inches wide. So if I put an idler in front of that, then I should be able to go as big as possible on that engine pulley and then have it come off the idler and into the clutch assembly. I got a lot to do. That's the reality of it. I will probably have a lot of late nights. And the real reality is I'm not going to film while I'm progressively doing it. It's going to be a if it works afterwards filming, because I just don't have enough time. By the time I get done with the stuff my family wants to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday afternoon, I will only have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 days. I'll have 4 days to rip that entire thing all the way back down to frame, swap an entire new front end on it, and re-put it back together, plus new steering column, plus new switchboard and everything to be ready to race on Saturday. Let's see. Old School Repair Shop asks, any opposed twins racing? I got one in my race mower and wanted to do some work to it. As far as the drag racing is concerned, there are a couple of guys that run opposed twins. That's where the Q carburetor thing comes in. Apparently, they go to him for some of their knowledge and their parts. There are a bunch of guys that use opposed twins for doing circle track racing, and I've heard a lot of good stuff about them. But I'm sure if you look it up, you'll find more. I don't do racing mowers. I'm just getting into it. The nearest circle track to me is in a place called LeBaron, Maine, and Lebaron, Maine, something like that. And it is a 3.5-hour drive away from me on a good day. So I don't expect to get into circle track racing anytime soon. But the drag racing guys, there is also there is a snowmobile racing club that runs out of Unity near me, and they have allowed the drag racing guys to try doing the ice track drag races also. So we might decide to go and try and do that this winter. There's all kinds of stuff like that. So we'll see what we can do there. Joshua, just a heads up, YouTube quit sending email notifications altogether. It's only push notifications. I've noticed that too. I've noticed that I haven't gotten any emails from the people that I'm subscribed to. I know a lot of you guys ask me who I'm subscribed to, but I really honestly don't share that because I subscribe to a very giant variety of channels and stuff like that. And I think it's just one of those personal things and personal choice things for subscriptions. I'm glad that you guys are subscribed to me, and I'm glad you support me. But unless somebody is in the same genre as me and things like that, I don't tend to talk about it in the chat very often. Let's see. Parts and Pieces drag racing looks like a great time. I've been looking around for something like that around me. Yeah, these guys originally started as something to do with a fair, or it was something to do with a fair or whatever. See, the reason why the drag racing ended up taking off with these guys is the same reason why it is you guys ask me all the time whether I'll do a pulling tractor. And John's just not into doing pulling tractors, and that's the problem here in the state of Maine. Here in the state of Maine, the pulling tractor competitions are only for kids. The drag racing actually started as an adult event. You got to be 18 years old. You have to have a valid driver's license to be able to go drag racing in these events. It's no kids whatsoever in the drag races. So that's the thing that really promoted it around here, is that as an adult, all of the tractor pulling is for kids only. The other thing is there was a drag racing group that was at a 1/8 of a mile drag strip track around here, but it seems that group died off. And so when this group popped up 7 years ago now, They ended up growing because that group had died off. So I would approach people and see if you can find a place. The problem is you need 150 yards for the race area, plus 20 behind it, because once these guys take off, they humchuck rocks. You need a wall or you need space. It doesn't matter. When I was prepping and setting up the GoPro, I literally had to run for the sidelines as I was prepping it, because if they took off, you got nailed by rocks hard enough to really cause some damage. So you need 20 feet behind it. You need 150 feet for the race itself. And then the problem is you're going upwards of 45 to 50 miles an hour on these outlaw machines, which means you need another 100 feet worth of slowdown. So you need a 300-foot straightaway that's at least a good solid 30 feet wide, plus the area for people to park, plus the area for people to grandstand. So it takes quite a bit of area to do, even though it's just a 150-foot drag. There is another drag racing group that's in, I can't remember which state it's in. I think it's in Pennsylvania or somewhere like that, that does drag races that are on the same 150-foot setup as what they do up here in Maine. And that's what I think it works good. I like the 150-foot. Old Craftsman square body with an MST 206. Oh, in that case, you should be fine. Throw a 5 on the back. Those MST 206s are really rugged. They're what I end up going after for my mud mowers. Throw a 5 or a 5.5 on the back of it, and then throw a 5.5 deck pulley flip on the front, and you'll be perfectly fine. But if it's the old square body style and it's got the crotch shift style, the one where you reach under your leg and you punch across with the shifter, you have to be really careful with those, because 5th gear will actually hit where the belt is going, and 6th gear will actually push against, excuse me, ginger ale's got burps in it. And 6th gear will actually push against the belt and pop it back into 5th. That's why on the original Maine mud mower, I actually had to add an idler pulley that sat just in front of the shifter. I had to set an idler pulley with a rod up against the side of the idler. So you had your idler, and I had a rod sitting up against it, so that way it always kept the belt outside of where the shifter was in 6th gear. I think in my very last teardown video that I made sure to show that when I was taking the assembly apart. But if you go look at that, you'll probably find that in some of the videos. Hey, Lauren, glad to go and have you here. Good evening there, Southern brother. Why am I wearing a French tickler on my head? I don't know, because I started wearing hats for every one of these stupid events, and now I have to wear a different hat anytime I possibly can for these live chats. This was given to John by a friend of mine, and so I'm wearing it. Gee whiz, you guys decided to blow up the chat. Let me see if I can catch up here. Past 20 to 25 miles an hour without a good front end is sketchy. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you guys have seen all the work that's gone into Mud Wizard, and I very rarely will decide to go in, I'm running a 5-speed in it right now, which means that I only get up to about 19, 20 miles an hour. And I very rarely, the reason why I'm okay with the 5-speed is because when I had the 6 in it, every time I would go and get it up into that 20, 25 miles per hour, it would just float on the bear claws in the rear, and it would just turn into a drifter. And all you got to do, which, you know, broken finger, is catch the side of those bear claws, and you're tea kettling it across your yard. So you want to be careful of that.
So glad you did that when I wasn't here.
Jessie says she's glad that I didn't tea kettle while she was here. Let's see. I watched one of the old videos. I think it was 7 years old. I take it that was at a different shed. Good to see you're still on and still putting videos up all these years later. Good job. Cool. Let's see. Okay, trying to catch up with you guys in your comments. Apparently, you're having a discussion as to which mile per hour is more sketchy on stock steering. I don't care what you say. The moment you get past about 20, if it's on stock steering, it is just sketchy as can be. Let's see. Mr. Rallyman, not enough time. Keep the drag racing fast mode close to your chest because your opponents are now watching the videos. Actually, that is a reality of my situation, in all honesty. I have utterly broken their world at this point by racing an MTD. In the background of my GoPro footage of my personal race, the one where the guy walks over, picks up the camera, and then the other guy trades off the camera and everything, what I ended up editing out of that was actually the after discussion by the people that were standing behind the camera. They actually were having an argument about whether I had red lighted the light, which is why it is I zoomed in the GoPro so you can see clearly I had a green light. They had an argument as to whether I red lighted because there is no way in bleeping hell that an MTD is that fast. So just in my first effort, I have already gotten them worried. So with a few more upgrades, I think we can start getting into the bracket. We've got a second racer idea in the mix, but that one is really experimental. It's not as simple as the MTD build. So that one we're going to keep off until we manage to actually take it drag racing and see what it does. So there is a secret build in the works, but we're going to keep that one off of YouTube until we make sure whether it does work the day it goes drag racing. Let's see. Craftsman Crusher. Hey, Neil, I have an 820, but the shift linkage from the transmission to the tractor broke. How could I make a new one? I have an 820, but the shift linkage from the transmission to the tractor broke. How could I make a new one? I would just are you talking about the shift arm on the top? Because if you're talking about the shift arm on the top, I would just weld a new one on, or have somebody with a welder weld a new one. If you're talking about the linkage from where the shifter lever moves to where the shifter lever is that's on the transmission itself, then I would just put in basic Heim joints and stuff like that. You can score some really decent Heim joints from newer version Craftsman's. The newer version Craftsman's actually figured out that the Heim joints were going to pieces on them, the stock ones that they had, and they upgraded them to ball joint Heim joints. So those are a really major upgrade that you can get. And actually, some of the GT5000 ones the crossbar actually has adjustable ball joint joints on them. So if you have one of the original Craftsman bars, the GT5000 actually has an adjustable bar that you can swap right directly onto the older one. That's what I would look into. YouTube just gave me a notification that you are live. I don't doubt it. YouTube is massively screwed up right now. I did my usual sending YouTube a chat thing about why it is my channel is labeled for kids, and they sent me the usual stupid copy and paste email that they usually do. I don't think they're ever going to fix it. I think they're in pure denial at this point and just trying to go and pretend and sweep it under the rug. But we'll see. You know, maybe when I hit 100,000 subscribers, I'll get an actual support chat that cares about something, and maybe I'll be able to go and get it fixed.
I found my paper license.
Let's see. Hi, old school. Have fun. I'm glad that you got customers coming into your shop, and I'm glad that you're making money. I mean, in this current economy and everything else, making money is what it's about. Right now, it's the jack of all trades like us bunch of nut jobs here that are the ones that are actually still afloat. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've been able to flip enough tractors and I've been able to do enough side work that my mortgage is paid, my electrical is paid, my insurance is paid. I'm caught up and paid for. So I know a lot of other people that had non-essential jobs. Looking at you, tourist industry, around here in Maine, that they got nothing. There's nothing left for money. There's nothing left for tourists. There's nothing left for all that kind of stuff. All those dumb little shops trying to sell touristy, dumb, stupid, overpriced junk. Every single one of them starting to go bottoms up. There, that was the PG term that I was looking for. They're all starting to go bottoms up all around here right now. And you know, I might be a dirtbag for saying so, but I could really care less. Like my downtown Belfast, Maine area, I don't think I have literally bought anything from a shop in the downtown Belfast area probably in over 10 years. There is one really overpriced hardware store in the downtown Belfast area, and there's a shoe store that is nice, but I prefer to go and buy cheap stuff off of Amazon. And then there is a diner down there that used to be a nice, good, old-fashioned diner called Tracy's. And Tracy's used to be a nice, old-school diner, you know, the type of place you walk in for $5 and you can go and order something that you can eat and be filled or whatever and not break the bank. And now all of a sudden the same $5 meal, now that the new owners are there, like last 5 years, all of a sudden like a thing of pancakes that used to be $5 is now all of a sudden $9. And like, you know, an omelet that used to be, $8.75. Like an omelet that was always like $6 is now all of a sudden $10 or $11. Like, that's just the way all of downtown Belfast has gone. And I'm not shedding I'm not shedding a tear out of any eye to watch the tourist places end up dropping dead. I'm glad actually to go and see some of the hometown people start coming out of the woodwork and the place is starting to go back to the old ways. You know, I'm sad that people are losing their jobs. It sucks that people are losing their jobs, but America in general needs to start being able to take care of itself. And we're not that way anymore. We haven't been since like the 70s. So I'm glad to see it coming. Let me see. Craftsman Crusher, did you come up with the I-beam suspension? I am not the first person to actually do the I-beam suspension on a lawn tractor. I'm trying to think of what his name is. If you go back to my original suspension build video, down in the description and during the video, you'll see that I mentioned his name and I made sure that I included links to his YouTube channel. There is another mud mower guy. He's since gone to college and dropped off of YouTube, and I can't remember what his name is. But if you go back to the videos of the original suspension build, you'll see that I quoted him and made sure to put links to his channel. I'm not the first one. I did it a little different than what he did. But as far as the general concept of the idea and how it was done, mine is a little more aggressively designed than his, but his is actually the original one that was done. And he and I chatted a lot before I ever posted up that video. That's why it is I made sure to include links in the video to all of his information also. So go back, check the original videos. You'll see that all of his info is there. What welder do you use and recommend? So as far as welders go, and a first welder to be able to use, I really love that Fournet welder that I'm using right now. It's about $225 plus. It's a Prime eligible welder on Amazon. The latest video that I just posted of working on the truck and stuff, if you go to that video and you look in the description, you'll see I included a link for that welder. Go check that one out. I've used the Go Plus welders, the 130s, but I will tell you that there is a huge difference in welder capability between a 130 rated and a 140. And spending the extra, I think the Go Plus 130 right now, I've got a video up on that one also. The Go Plus 130 is about $130 on Amazon right now, whereas the Fournet welder is about $225. And I will tell you what, that extra $100, if you can scrape it together and you can pay it, is worth every cent. I love the Go Plus. I built the entire gas-powered power wheel out of that Go Plus. I built probably 80% of Mud Wizard using the Go Plus. If I wasn't using the Go Plus, I was actually ironically using my little $100 Campbell welder in order to go and tack weld things and stuff like that. So that entire Mud Wizard build was built using $100 welders. So go back, take a look at that information. You'll be able to go and find what you need there. The big thing that I have tried to pass on to people is the same thing I say about a lot of tools. You can have a cheap tool if you use high quality consumables. Case in point, if you have a cheap welder and you run something like good quality Blue Demon wire, it'll weld really well. But if you have a cheap welder and you run really cheap like Harbor Freight welding wire, you're going to end up with cheap welding wire problems. Cheap welding wire tends to be sooty, it tends to clog, it tends to go and spark a lot more and splatter a lot more. To be quite honest, I've been using the Fournet FluxCore wire, and I will probably be switching back over to the Blue Demon just as soon as I run out of it. Without question, Blue Demon is what I recommend to run in cheap welders all the time. It runs really well. It is very clean wire, and it's very well done, and it is worth the extra $10 to buy. That's my piece that I would pass on. Oh, the other thing is, if you go with like a Go Plus 130 and if you go with the cheap Harbor Freight welder, a lot of those are only capable of running 2-pound spools. If you go with the Fournet that I've been using and I'll be producing a video on later on, I wanted to put it to its test before I did a video on it. I definitely promote it, and I will be doing a full video on it. But the thing about that Fournet is it's capable of a full 10-pound spool. It's not just those little 2-pound. It's a full 10-pound spool capable. And that's what I'll end up putting into it is a 10-pound of Blue Demon at some point. Let's see. Do I recommend a MST 206 or an 820? I recommend the 206 because you can find parts everywhere. The 820s have been decommissioned. They don't build them anymore, which means that if you blow something up, parts are getting harder to find. Case in point, a lot of racers tend to blow third gear in an fourth gear. No, is it fourth gear or third gear? I don't remember which one it is. But case in point, 820s, the racers tend to go and blow out third or fourth gear. A set of third or fourth gear right now, they used to go and sell the last 820 that I rebuilt and had to put gears into. It cost me $40 for a set of gears. I just looked the other day and a set of gears costs $88 plus shipping. They're getting harder to find. They're getting more rare. If you go with an 820, you're going to eventually regret it in your pocketbook. I just noticed earlier I have a rust hole in my Tacoma frame in a 6-inch long. What's a good way to fix it? What will last? Go take a look at my video I just posted. That if you look in the description, you'll see the rust converter boat grade stuff that I use. Just a heads up, you really honestly, if you're spraying that on, you need to give it a full 24 hours to go and settle in. I didn't get a chance to, and so that's the reason why I need to redo parts and sections, because it hadn't quite soaked in entirely. But that stuff is really, really great. It's rated to deal with ocean, sea, air, and everything else. That's what I recommend. It's rust converter that's made for the ocean. If you've ever dealt with the salt off the ocean, you can understand why it is that stuff is amazing. That's what I would recommend. I would recommend getting an air chisel, a needle gun, all that kind of stuff. Go through the entire frame, take off as much of the flaky rust as you can, and then go back through it with rust converter before you paint it. Otherwise than that, Rust-Oleum paint the whole thing. Whatever color it is, it happens to suit your fancy that day.
Purple.
Jesse says it's got to be purple. Your Tacoma needs a purple frame. What do you think about running a 6-inch on the motor and a 2.5 on the trans? I think that that is dumb. That is honestly what I think of doing that. Everybody always goes, oh, look, it's going to be so fast. And then everybody burns about 3 belts at $20 a piece. And then they magically decide to go and switch out the 2.5 for a 4-inch. And then as long as they don't get mud on it, they tend to do okay. That's my take on it. Do not ever go below a 4-inch. It is a waste of time. All you're going to do is suck up $20 belts one right after another. Let's see. Apparently, Lauren agrees with me. The 2.5 inch is for stupid people. Don't do it. And let me see. Robert says, hello, young man. How are you doing today? Robert, are you the one that I was talking to the last time that I said, I bet I'm older than you think I am? Anyways, how are you doing today? I just got through painting the muffler on one of my twin cylinder Briggs engines, used VHT header paint. Yeah, I've painted the headers in the past and stuff like that on a couple of different things. VHT actually usually tends to hold up pretty good. VHT is what I used in order to do the paint that's on the gas-powered Power Wheel. It has managed to end up burning off. It's managed to end up burning off the first like 3 inches coming out from underneath the header wrap. But from what I understand from motorcycles and stuff with the header wraps, that's actually pretty common because the header wrap causes all the heat to accumulate and stay there, and it gets warmer than it normally would be able to. So yeah, VHT is really good stuff. I actually recommend it quite often. Oh, apparently everybody wants to go and tell the guy that wanted to put a 2.5 he needs a bigger pulley. Yeah, see, that's what I love about doing these live chats. I love when you guys have discussions. Yes, it causes me to pause, but I like seeing you guys have the discussions and be able to go and, you know, cast in your votes on what people are asking for questions, because that's really what the community is about. The community is about helping each other and being able to build and grow and do stuff. So I'm really glad to go and see you guys doing that. What kind of music do I listen to? I listen to just about everything. There might be days that I listen to Beethoven and Bach. I might be listening to Smash Mouth. I like Five Finger Death Punch. I listen to what's that song? Click Click Boom. I can't think of who wrote that. I listen to a lot of older country. I listen to Kenny Rogers, and I listen to what? No, I do not listen to Dolly Parton. Ignore the. Huh?
You do with me.
I do if you're the one playing it, but that's because I put up with you. I listen to techno, good old fashioned techno, not the newer stuff. Old fashioned stuff like D-Dub, and I listen to Sandstorm. I listen to country. I like the Locks and stuff like that.
Can we get a coffee later on?
Mm-hmm.
Found it. Right there.
You know, I listen to a bunch of stuff like that. Let's see. What's the best new mower to buy if I can find a good used one? The best new mower to buy if you can find a good used one. If you want easy to work on, the Poulan Pro is what I recommend. A real Poulan Pro. See, Poulan Pro bought out the rights to be able to go and make the AYP chassis that was at one point the Craftsman LT1000 and the Craftsman LT2000. An LT2000 and a 2006 Poulan Pro and newer with the hydro gear are the exact same tractor. A 1996 Craftsman LT2000 and a 2006 to I think it's a 2012 Poulan Pro with a hydro are literally the exact same machine. You can take the fenders off, you can take the hood off, and you can slam them both onto either one and have the exact same machine. So that is what I recommend. They are hard to kill, amazingly easy to work on, interchangeable with parts from like I think it's 2002 Craftsman LT2000s all the way up through to I think it's like 2012 Poulan Pros. All of the parts are all interchangeable, easy to work on. You can swap spindles out and have the thing up and running in a matter of like 20 minutes if you know what you're doing. You can do a deck belt. You can swap the entire deck on one of those in like 30 minutes flat if you know what you're doing. Deck belt swaps on those are like 15 minutes if you know what you're doing. Engine swaps. An engine swap on an LT2000, an LT1000, or a Poulin Pro that has a twin cylinder Briggs in it. Engine swaps on those are like an hour. And that is an hour while you drink soda and you gab with your friend. Just the easiest tractors to work on. I love them. They're my favorite thing to go and see show up for $100 bill on Marketplace. Those are, without question, I'll drop everything to go buy one of those every time. Let's see. Thank you, Robert, for saying you enjoy my videos. I'm glad that you learn new things. I try not to be repetitive with the stuff when I'm giving out hints and tips and things like that. I try to swap it in and stuff like that. The other thing is I don't want to go and give away all my personal tips and tricks and stuff like that that I know all the time. There are a few things that I tend to go and keep off camera, and there's a few things that I add occasionally when I've noticed that they're no longer that special. So I'm glad that I was able to help you, and I'm glad that you've been able to learn a bunch of stuff, and thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Do a lawnmower burnout. I've debated it a couple of times. Maybe we'll do another burnout. We'll see. Carts and Cameras is trying a new twin I-beam in their new trophy truck build. Well, obviously, all Carts and Cameras ever does is clone somebody else's stuff that they built. I mean, literally, like the last 5 years worth of their builds are all just somebody else's build. The gas-powered Power Wheel build, they decided to clone into their little wagon build or whatever. And I've got a buddy of mine that he built something, and they literally a month later built an exact clone of it. But as far as their trophy truck is concerned, the best trophy trucks are always 90s Ford Rangers. And guess what a 90s Ford Ranger has? I-beam suspension for the trophy trucks. I mean, they literally, Ford Ranger had the market so bad on trophy trucks that the aftermarket Chevy teams even created bolt-in I-beam Chevy kits in the 90s in order to be able to get their trucks to be competitive with the Ford Rangers. I-beam suspension in trophy trucks is where it's at. It always has been. They've got conversion kits for all the 2000 models to be able to run Ford Ranger designed I-beam suspension. It doesn't surprise me at all that they're running that in the trophy truck build.
You look adorable.
I'm glad I look adorable. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Last Rust video has 500 views in 2 hours. Why aren't they on here now? What do you think? The people that want to go and be in the live chat, my live chat usually tends to be a lot of Q&A. I'm debating expanding my live chat and trying to do some sort of guest invite chat this winter. I've had a few other YouTubers reach out to me as to whether I would be willing to go and do a guest invite live chat. There's some services out there, but they require a monthly subscription in order to be able to use. Otherwise, they put giant watermarks on your live chat to use them. And I've been debating that. It seems that the trend that's starting to really come around on the live chat stuff is guest invite discussion chats. And I don't know. You know, you guys feel free to say something on that. There's plenty of different services that have become available to be able to do that. One of the services that has showed up recently is StreamYard.com. There's a lot of guys that are starting to use StreamYard.com. And in order for you guys to join, you'd have to have an account and you'd have to join in. I'd have to pay for that service. And that's an extra $20 to $50 a month that I really haven't quite decided whether it's worth it to invest in. What do you guys think? If I was to go and do something like that, would you guys like to be able to join and ask live questions and discuss things as the expansion onto the chat?
There's also a Zoom one.
Yeah, but Zoom I can't do through the YouTube stuff.
Oh.
So,
That sucks.
yep. So that's the other thing that I need to look into also is that YouTube actually counts you guys interacting with me and doing the comments and stuff towards my analytics and my algorithms. And I don't know whether if I use another streaming service, whether I'll use that counting towards my algorithm. It benefits me for you guys to come in and for you guys to comment and for us to have back and forth comment and vocal interactions. And so I don't know whether using StreamYard would interact with that and mess it up. So that's something I've got to look into. If you guys are interested in me doing chats and doing invites and stuff like that during this winter, let me know. Send me an email as to whether you'd be interested in joining in and whether we could do something. The thing is, I keep my chats and I keep my channel PG. And so for me to invite people in, I'd have to be that chat Nazi that if you started swearing, I'd have to tell you to stop. And then if you continued, I'd have to go and kick you. And I don't tend to put up with much BS. So I'm sure that the first couple of times we'd end up with a couple of hurt feelings. But who knows? We can see about it. Maybe it's worth me investing the money in. Maybe it's not. You know, you guys throw some ideas around and we'll see what we can do. Send me an email if you're interested in it. But it'd have to be a PG thing in order to stick with the channel. Does Blue Demon make a gas list? Yes, Blue Demon makes a gas list. Just make sure to check that it's FlexScore. I love running Blue Demon. I run Blue Demon in my Hobart 140. It's all I run in my Hobart 140, and I love it. Why do I never do snappers or any rear engines? Snappers here in Maine tend to be an utter waste of time. They tend to be very rotted out. Almost everything rear engine here in the state of Maine tends to be rotted out or a waste of time. By the time I end up seeing them, people are trying to go and sell them for $100 as a kid's go-kart, and $100 is all they're worth. I've ended up with them as freebies in the past, but usually they're always rotted out and a waste, so I don't tend to promote them on the channel when I get them. Let's see. Why is Jessie hiding? Jessie's working on cleaning her office over in the back and stuff. She's had a very busy week. She's actually been working with a friend doing some babysitting and stuff like that. So she hasn't been home to clean her office. So she's trying to go and get caught up on stuff.
I could sit and eat if you want.
Mm-hmm. Is that helmet rated for 50 miles per hour? No, I think the helmet's probably rated for 10 at best, and it's it doesn't fit on my head. I wonder if it has a rating on it. Let's see, is there any kind of rating on this? Apparently it was manufactured in 2012. It's rated for the age of 5. and up. Oh, 5 and up. And no, it's got no rating in it, but it does say for child use only. So I guess I'm a child. Wait a minute. Wait, let's see if it fits.
No.
Yes, it fits. See?
No. My hair is up and in the way. No.
Oh, sorry. Did I just catch your earring?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. My bad. How's your ear?
Very sore.
Am I going to get hit later?
No, I'm not the abusive one.
You're not, yeah. All right, well, I just tried to rip Jesse's ear off. That was great. Is your ear doing better now? Can you hear me now? I'm going to hell for that one. Let me see here. Let's see. Robert, I'm 56 going on 57. Well, I'm 36 going on 37.
My mouth is full.
Clear your mouth. Talk. Talk, dang it. You can do it. Talk. I want a cookie too. Ah, I got 2 cookies because she was mouthy.
You don't deserve it. You hurt my ear. 27 going on 28.
27 going on 28.
He's
There we
off
go.
in the cradle.
Let's see.
He's a cradle robber. Be careful. My ear really hurts.
You had to try on the helmet. The
I did
people have
not.
spoken.
I'll pick your scarf.
The Poolin Pro is that like the Husqvarna you did a video on a short time ago. No, I've actually got a Poolin Pro. You guys ask me all the time what my favorite lawn tractor is. I've actually got the Poolin Pro that I actually like. It's just got a really crummy paint job that's starting to fail. I will make sure to go and do a video on the Poolin Pro before I put it up for sale. We'll get that video done and up probably next Tuesday or so. Since you guys ask all the time, it's one of my #1 questions I get in the comments. I'll do up a video on what my favorite lawn tractor is. Since I've got one, I'm about to sell the stupid thing. Okay, I'm not going to eat and try and talk at the same time. I'm going to save those.
Give my cookie back.
No, you can't have your cookie back. I stole it fair and square. How did you get into building off-road tractors?
Being crazy.
So the way I ended up getting into off-road building tractors was back when I was a teenager. I grew up poor. The real reality is, whether my parents like me saying it or whether anybody, likes to go and hear it or whatever, is I grew up very poor. I'll tell you a story I recently told Jesse about how poor I was. I was so poor that my mom, in order for us to go out to eat, used to go and clip out the freebie Big Mac coupons that they used to do for McDonald's. McDonald's used to go and do a buy one, get one free Big Mac deal. If you bought a Big Mac meal, you got a free Big Mac on the side. We were so poor that my mom would actually take 2 slices of bread with us so that we could split the Big Mac in order to go and put 1 patty into the 2 slices of bread in order to go and have another sandwich for me to eat while my sister had the other half of the Big Mac while my dad had the actual Big Mac in order to split the meal.
And she had whatever she wanted.
And then my mom had whatever she wanted because, she was whatever. There are many inappropriate terms in order to describe my mother with, but we won't go there. That's how poor my family was. So we couldn't afford an ATV. My dad had an old garden tractor. I figured out how to go and rip the mowing deck off of that thing. It was an Agway with a 700 transmission in it. It was a 4-speed with reverse with a gear drive to a rear solid axle rear end. It was an Agway. It was orange. The orange is red. Um, that's the reason why it is I can't give up on the little Agway that I have right now, and I want to build it into something. Just haven't quite decided what yet. But that was how I got into building off-road mowers, was because my family was too poor for an ATV. So I stole my dad's old tractor and I built that into one. And that's where it all started, was about 14 years old. And when I was 13, I got my first stick welder and I taught myself how to weld. My dad was mechanically inclined as a turn up on Tuesday. He was not a mechanical dad whatsoever. I love him. You know, I'm glad he was my dad, but that was my cookie. I stole it fair and square. You're not nice.
You're not nice. You hurt my ear.
So, whatever I have learned and whatever I pass on to you, a lot of times it is things that I have garnered and learned from older gentlemen and people teaching me along the way, and I like to pass that knowledge on because I didn't have that knowledge growing up passed on to me, and I think it's important to pass that stuff on. Let's see. What are my thoughts on snapper rear engine riding mowers? To be quite honest, I don't bother with them. I don't play with them. I wouldn't have anything to really tell you. I'm sorry. I'd rather be honest about it than decide to go and fill you full of that caca that you use in order to be able to make your garden grow better. Yeah, cow manure, or the other term for it, which I'm not allowed to say because YouTube. Let's see. Cow manure. Let's see. Okay, let me get caught up to you guys. Holy cow. Couldn't I just do Zoom on the screen behind me? After all, I'm a computer geek. I think it would get a little weird having the Zoom volume coming and speech and stuff coming from the rear. I'm pretty sure we would end up with an echo effect. Kind of like if you get two phone, well, now I'm showing my age. If you get two landline phones and you put them next to each other and you talk, you end up with the echo effect going back and forth between the two of them. I'm pretty sure you'd end up with the same issue. But yeah. Lauren says it's not nice that you're eating his cookies.
They're mine. I bought them.
Let's see. If I need a moderator ever, just holler. That may end up what I end up doing in the future. The group has grown. I didn't advertise anything for this particular one. I expected only about 25 people to show up. We're currently at 53. I'm pretty sure earlier I saw it at 62. I mean, we're doing pretty good considering we didn't advertise anything. If I advertise, we usually hit close to 100, and I usually end up posting a moderator for those ones. When the live gets close to 100, things tend to get a little out of hand. But it is what it is, and thank you, Lauren, for saying something. I'll take you up on that in the future. Let's see. 16 horsepower stroker motor. That's cool. I'll have to get into doing stuff like that pretty soon. Next year, I want to go and build a drag racer to get into outlaw class, which pretty much is no holds barred. Outlaw class, as far as the drag race guys are concerned, as long as it is a lawn tractor or agricultural motor, they really don't care. It's bring anything and go for it. And so I'd love to go and do that next year, but the funding just isn't there with all this stupid cornhole stuff this year. Craftsman Crusher's been around watching my stupid self talk about mowers for 7 years. You know, I think that's pretty cool. Thank you. Lauren says it serves you right that you got pulled for stealing his cookies.
My ear got pulled beforehand. That's not fair.
No, we're catching up with the chat right now. If you wouldn't talk so much, we'd be caught up with the chat.
Fudge you. No, I'm not offering you grounded.
Lauren says that he's going to eat your kittens now since you ate my cookies.
There are no kittens. She's not pregnant.
Yeah, she ended up not being pregnant. She's just fat.
No.
I'm probably not allowed to say that. I'm now going to end up with some like women's rights group coming after me on YouTube because I said she's not pregnant. She's just fat. But that apparently is what's going on. Some women's rights group is now going to blow up my YouTube channel.
Good. I hope they do.
Let me see. All right, let's see if I can get caught up a little bit. I'm in Brewer. That sounds familiar. Heritage. So, okay, so Brewer would be northwest, no, east to west, right?
West.
East, west.
East.
No, east. Okay, yes, W-E. So Brewer would be
Yes,
Brewer would be
no.
northeast of where I live. I live in Belfast, Maine. Brewer would be up near Bangor. The place that I drag race most of the time is at Threshers. Threshers is in Searsmont, which is about 20 minutes west of me. They also race in Lincolnville, which is about 20 minutes southwest of me. So if you're in Brewer, then you'd be an hour northeast of me. You'd be an hour and a half away from where I drag race, basically. If you build a drag racer and you want to go drag racing, you know, feel free to go and send me an email and talk. The problem is, you got to be 18 years old. You got to build it according to their rules, and the rules are posted in the group. You can download them and be able to review them. And you got to have a legal driver's license. You cannot race if you do not have it built to the rules, 18 years old, and a legal driver's license. That's the way their insurance runs. It's not because they're being whatever against anybody. The way their insurance is written, that is required. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So please do not make a stink about it. They pay something like $1,500 a year in order to have insurance, in order to do these races, and they only get to race like 10 times a year. So it is what it is. That's what's required. When you get done with your truck, you can spray old motor oil on the frame. That is highly illegal in the state of Maine.
I want my frame to be purple.
As far as whether I would do it, I wouldn't use motor oil. Actually, if I was to do it, bar and chain oil actually seems to work a lot better if I was to do it. And if I've ever helped with doing it, or if I've ever seen it done, bar and chain oil you can buy in an entire gallon, way cheaper than motor oil, and it tends to go and stay there better if you were to do such a thing. But I would never, ever do such a thing, if you understand. Let's see. My first mower was an old style snapper. Took out 2 fences before I got the hang of it. Yeah, The drag racer, while I was building it, I had a clutch disengagement that didn't go so well, and I took out a Husqvarna hood. That yeah, that was the fastest $50 I've lost in a long time. I went 0 to 50 crunch in about 10 feet. Not so good. Let's see. Where did the name Redneck Computer Geek come from? So, I've always been a redneck. When I was in high school, I was a computer technician. I actually started being a technician for the high school that I was in when I was 15 years old. I was a computer technician for 3 years there. So redneck, computer, and geek comes from the fact that there is a giant difference between the term geek and nerd. If you look up the term nerd versus the term geek, a nerd knows a lot. A geek is capable of putting it to use. So Redneck Computer Geek is my high school nickname that started when I was a sophomore, and it just continued to stick. When I was in college, I was referred to as the Redneck Computer Geek, and it just stayed there. So that's where Redneck Computer Geek came from, was my sophomore year of high school. It just kind of happened, and it stayed ever since. It's been my call sign on tons of different things. My other call sign was from a prank that was played on me back in high school, and it's Squirrel Eater. SQUIR ELEATER. Squirrel Eater, if you ever see it around. Back then we used to play Counter-Strike, and I had my login. I joked all the time about being a redneck, and squirrel was one of my favorite things to go eat. And I had recently made a joke about it because I really like eating gray squirrel, to be honest. I think it tastes really good. If you've ever eaten rabbit, you'll like gray squirrel.
Never had it, not going to.
Red squirrel tastes horrible. It's like really, really badly oily mackerel. But gray squirrel tastes like slightly more gamey tasting rabbit. If you like rabbit, you'll like gray squirrel. But anyways, so I had been joking about eating squirrels. I had a Counter-Strike login all set up, and I couldn't decide what my username was going to be. Had my email address in, had the password set, couldn't decide what my username was going to be, decided that I was going to go take a piss. And by the time I walked back into the room, my other computer repair technician buddies had decided that from then on I was Squirrel Eater. And the name stuck, and I use it for tons of logins all over the place. So if you ever see Squirrel Eater spelled incorrectly, it's most likely an old login from me. Most of the time nowadays, I usually tend to use RCGYT for RCG YouTube. But yeah, if you see Squirrel Eater spelt wrong, it's probably an old login from me. Let's see. Space Giant says, hey, I have a question. Well, you know what, Space Giants? You can put it in the comments just like everybody else. Let's see. Ever experiment with turbocharging a tractor? I understand performance isn't cost effective, but curious if you have ever contemplated it. Thanks for your time. So the problem with turbocharging a lawn tractor is that you're dealing with a blow-through carburetor. And when you're dealing with a blow-through carburetor, you're dealing with a pressure and a PSI that is created within your float bowl. And the only way to properly turbocharge a lawn tractor is to actually create a float bowl charged PSI in order to be able to compensate for the turbocharger. So ironically, what happens when people turbocharge a lawn tractor, which is why you only usually see about 3 or 4 solid run videos, is that they no longer are capable of being able to increase the PSI pressure that is in the float bowl which means that the engine runs and it leans out. And it leans out hardcore. Next thing you know, you end up with a cherry red exhaust. And the very next thing after cherry red exhaust is usually something going kablooey. So if you watch YouTube, you will see, I think there's probably about maybe 30 lawn tractor videos of turbocharged motors. But you very rarely will see them racing. You very rarely will see them off-roading. You very rarely will see them in a run video that is anything longer than about 10 minutes. And the reason being is because they lean out horrifically because of the turbocharger. And usually they do some really stupid things because of that situation. The only real way that you could do a turbocharged lawn tractor would be if you were to do something like an Ecotron setup on it. You'd have to do an Ecotron setup, and then you'd have to have an ECM program turbocharger setup for it, which you could be able to do, but your initial investment at that point would be minus fabrication costs and minus your time to do it. Just your initial investment for an Ecotron with a 30 millimeter fuel injection plus your turbocharger that's Ecotron friendly, probably about $1,200. And that's without fabrication costs. That's just the starting ballpark figure. By the time you add fabrication cost and everything else, custom exhaust, all of that, I'm going to bet ballpark about $1,500 in order to be able to make a motor that actually could run for an extended period of time. If you're looking for the easiest one in order to be able to cram a turbocharger onto in order to make a YouTube video and stuff like that, hands down without question, it is definitely an opposed twin. Being able to make an adapter that goes into the top of an opposed twin carburetor most definitely has been the easiest one that people can do. And then what you do is you run an oil pump to the turbocharger to have an oil return line in order to keep it running long enough to make your video. But like I said, the blow-through carburetor, it's not going to be able to PSI charge the float bowl, and it's going to eventually end up leaning out at probably about 5 PSI, just like all the old turbochargers on 305 Chevys used to do. That's why you have specialty made carburetors for running turbochargers on an old 305, 350, 351 Windsors, and 302s. They had specialty carburetors for being able to run turbocharger blow through. So do your research, look it up. You'll see what I'm talking about. Let's see. So, Space Giants did figure out how to post a question. I have a lawnmower that won't turn over. I can get it to turn over once. I jumped the starter solenoid. Okay, so first of all, find your kill wire. Always disconnect your kill wire. Second, pull your spark plug. See if it turns over better with the spark plug gone. If it turns over the same, you probably got a bad starter. If it turns over way faster, check your valve lash. If your valve lash is correct, then at that point, you need to start troubleshooting whether you've got other issues. My bet, especially in the overhead valve world that we live in currently, my bet is your valves are probably out of adjustment. But if you pull that spark plug and you do not have that thing spinning as if it wants to take off, most likely your starter is failing. I'm running into that a lot, actually, with Briggs & Stratton V-twins. The 20 and 21 horsepower Briggs & Stratton V-twins, they run the exact same Briggs & Stratton starter as a single horsepower 17.5 and 19 horsepower and 21. So a 17 single, a 19 signal, and a 21 signal single all run the exact same starter as a 20 and a 21 horsepower Briggs V-twin. And so I'm running into a lot of them where they burn out the starter coil and it'll turn the motor over, but it will not turn it fast enough to be able to actually start it. So keep that in mind and watch out. If you go back through a lot of my older videos, you can see on my tractor hunting videos, there is a John Deere one. If you go back, there is a tractor hunting John Deere video I posted, I think about a year and a half or so ago. I bought it for 50 bucks, if I remember right. I showed you how to pull the cap on a starter and how to PB blaster the entire starter and put it back together in order to be able to get it to come back to life in order to start it. And then that way you can purchase a starter in the next couple of weeks to get it back up and running. Just a heads up, we're at 7:24. I'm going to go and end the chat in the next 5 minutes or so. I've got a ton going on right now trying to get ready for this weekend to spend with my family and trying to get a whole bunch of other stuff done. So I'm going to end up ending the chat in about 5 minutes. I apologize if I didn't get to one of your questions. If you have a question that was really important, feel free to email me. My email is posted on the YouTube channel information. You can send me an email and I'll gladly get back to you as soon as I get a chance. Or you can send me a message through the Facebook page. Let me see. The cabin is owned by John's biological mother. It is on her land. I am not sure what's going to happen to it. Jesse and I both have definitely decided we intend to purchase land in order to be able to build another cabin. It's just not in the cards for the next year or so because of this stupid cornhole virus. The real reality is, in order to pick up about a 20-acre piece of property, we need a down payment of at least probably about $6,000, and that's just not in the cards right now. The goal at this point is to get all the vehicle stuff sorted out. That way everything is on par as far as the vehicles, and then be able to start saving money in order to be able to do a land purchase, hopefully. If we can get to that point next summer, I would love to be able to, and at least start clearing a piece of property. But it is what it is. This cornhole virus has everything screwed up. What's really funny about the property around Maine right now is that it has gone really bonkers in price. The property around Maine has gone utterly, totally bonkers. It's not even worth attempting to look at buying property right now. People have jacked the price to oblivion and beyond. A piece of acreage in my area right now, on average, is selling for about $3,500 an acre. 5 years ago, it was about $2,000 an acre. Everything has gone ballistic right now. So it's not even worth looking at until next year, and we got some money saved up. This year, it's a skin of the teeth year. We're just going to keep working with the junkyard builds the best we can. I've got plenty of junkyard build stuff coming out, though, so stay tuned. Hey, Parts and Pieces, thank you for the $2 tip. I appreciate it, dude. I'm glad that I could help you and help you grow. I appreciate the tip. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to try and go and catch a couple of things here, and then we'll call it good, okay? Let's see. Hunter says he will paint his frame purple as soon as he gets the hole patched in his frame. He promises.
Really?
That's what he says. We'll see if he sends us some pictures.
Cool.
If you're going to do it, you got to send pictures, Hunter. I want to go and see pictures. I'll tell you what. You post up a YouTube video, and it is purple and fully done up. I will go and post a link or something in another video. I'll tell you what. If you get yours done in time for me to get working on either Rust to Red or to get working on the frame for Jesse's truck, I'm going to start on that frame probably in about 2 weeks. If you get yours done in time for me to get Jesse's videos up, I'll post a link there to get you channel views. It's got to be purple, though. It's got to be totally purple on the frame, the whole frame. And I will post a link for you. Do I watch Chubb 327 videos? Yes, I occasionally do watch Chubb. I like 327's videos. I like that he stays independent. I like he stays totally away from the drama side of the Mudmower clan. I enjoy watching his videos. I like that he does the stuff with his, I think it's his little brother that's in the videos, if I remember right. But yes, I do. I'm not subscribed to his channel. I just watch his videos if they happen to come up as suggestions. He does a bunch of other abstract stuff occasionally that I'm not interested in. So I tend to only watch his videos if they come up as a suggested for me and the thumbnail catches my eye. But I do watch his stuff. He is cool. Good luck, Carts and Cameras, on building that drag strip. Like we were talking about earlier, you're going to need almost 300 feet. By the time you got the 25 or so feet worth of staging area, you got the 150 feet of drag strip. You're going to need another 100 past that of run out room. So keep that in mind. You need like 300 straight feet. Just in the testing area that I've got here, my neighbor allows me to run into his field area, and that's only about 200 feet. And I'll tell you what, once I get closer to about 40 miles per hour, I'm going to need all of that footage to be able to slow down. So keep that in mind and pay attention there, okay? Let's see. Lauren says that our name should be the geek chick and the nerd turd. Let's see. How fast would I go with a 6-inch on the front and a 4 on the back? Most likely you're going to be pushing with a 5-speed. You'll probably be pushing about 22 to 25. If you've got a 6-speed with a really high 6 gear, I bet you'd probably be pushing into the 25 to 28 mile per hour. Google, if you get like something like Gaia GPS on an Android phone, you can usually GPS speed check them, but do keep in mind, you really honestly need upwards of 1/8 of a mile before the GPS will actually kick in. At the very minimum, you need close to 200 feet for the GPS to actually kick in on most Android phones. So if you're going to do that, pay attention to the fact you need the space to run it out to GPS. Let's see. Oh, Hide the Rat. You were talking about Union Street and doing the towing videos. That's good to go and see you here. Get some videos up, dude. We'll go and see what you got going on and go from there. Let's see. All right, guys. So I got to call it a night here. Like I said, I got a bunch of stuff I got to go and get done in order to go and be ready for this weekend in order to spend with the family. So it's going to be a dedicated weekend to the family and stuff like that. For those of you that like to email me on a regular basis, I will be going technologically dead doornail for the most part. Probably
4 days.
Probably ballpark of 4 days. You might be able to get a hold of me through the Facebook Messenger as far as the page is concerned, the Redneck Computer Geek page. But I will only be checking into that at night after everything is done and over with the family. Otherwise than that, I'm going to have probably 4 days away from everybody. So I'll try to get back to everybody's emails like I always do by the time I'm back, probably next Tuesday, and dealing with stuff. But everybody have a good night, stay out of trouble, and I hope everybody is safe and having fun. If you're not safe, I hope you're at least having fun, because usually that's the way I am. Jesse tells me all the time I have to stay safe, and I just smile and say, can I have fun? So have a good night.